Ready to resume the agenda. Jude, license short-term 2300-825.
Yes, and as we discussed during the intermission, the applicant is not here today. They alerted me of this late last week and then confirmed it via phone call this morning. As far as I know, they are not here and they do not have a representative. However, I do believe people have come out to speak about the case. So I think we should do our presentation and then hear their testimony.
All right, you have a presentation for us.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so Jude Mattingly, Office of Planning, 444 South 5th Street, Louisville, Kentucky, 40202. This case is concerning a short-term rental registration that was issued by the Office of Planning, in which the primary resident requirement has come into question. Next slide, please. So the Office of Planning had issued the registration LIC STL 2300-825 on May 31st of 2023. The application identifies Matthew Ford as the host. As part of the application, Mr. Ford provided documents supporting his residency. He submitted a Kentucky issued driver's license and voter registration. There is no approved conditional use permit on file for this property. So if it is not the owner or host primary residence, a conditional use permit would be needed. The Office of Planning then received a complaint about the short-term rental alleging that the property was not Mr. Ford's primary residence. And then following a review of the complaint, staff determined that a residency hearing would be necessary due to a few questionable circumstances surrounding the property. Next slide, please. So just as a reiteration, the primary residency definition for short-term rentals, I'll spare us reading that whole thing, but the most important factor is where the individual spends the majority of his time. And then secondary to that is where you might have like your Kentucky issued driver's license, vehicle registrations, voter registration, and other information. Next slide, please. So to give you kind of a brief timeline of the events, on May 11th of 2023, zoning enforcement issued what is known as an advertising citation for an unregistered short-term rental at 716 South 45th Street, meaning that it was up on a platform offering short-term stays without a registration, which is a violation of Chapter 115. On May 16th of 2023, a temporary receipt for a Kentucky issued driver's license is issued to Matthew Ford. And then on the 31st of May of that same year is when the Office of Planning received the application. I just want to note that the ordinance changes that were approved in late September would have made it to where residency would have had to be established for the prior 6 months before applying. Next slide, please. So background records that were conducted on the 6th of October of 2023 indicate that Mr. Ford may maintain residency at a different address on Creek Bend Court that is also here in Louisville, Kentucky. The Airbnb listing shows rentals as widely available, and they appear to be unshared with the host. Of course, since it is where you're supposed to spend the majority of your time, that can be difficult to do unless the dwelling is shared. And then lastly, just as a note, the Airbnb listing lists Mr. Matthew Ford as the co-host, with Michael Ford acting as the main host. It's my understanding that he's the father of Matthew Ford. Next slide, please. So these would be questions that we would ask the host, but as stated, they are not here. And as far as I know, they do not have a representative. At least that is what was indicated to me. But, you know, we would ask him, where would you, like, how much time do you spend at the property? Where do you stay when the dwelling is rented short term? What is the amount of notice you're provided in advance for an upcoming stay? And then what is the frequency in which the dwelling will be rented short term? And if there are any blackout dates, but since he's not here, next slide, please. Oh, right. So then the board's required actions would be to accept or reject Mr. Ford's statement of primary residency at 716 South 45th Street. If the board determines the host residency does meet section 1.2.2, the registration will remain active. Registration is only valid for 1 year from the date of issuance. Mr. Ford would be required to maintain his primary residency at the address, and failure to do so would result in another residency hearing. If the board determines the host residency does not meet section 1.2.2, the registration can be revoked. Mr. Ford may reapply for the registration at a later date after satisfying the deficiencies, and or he could apply for a CUP or to rezone to a district that would allow short-term rentals by right. Thank you.
I'll just add to that last point. We might not have caught this when we put the staff report together. If you were to reject the residency, the property is owned under an LLC. Under the new ordinance, he's kind of non-conforming to that requirement. He was in operation before that requirement, but if you were to have a registration revoked, the new registration would likely have to meet that requirement, which would mean that they would have to do the CUP regardless, or, change the ownership of the property from the LLC to Mr. Ford, because it's now owner occupied, not host occupied under the new ordinance.
Okay, thank you. I have a speaker card for Jean Griffin.
Question for anyone. What is a temporary receipt for a license?
So
Under what conditions would one get one of those?
I think we've seen quite a bit of these, so I wouldn't treat it any different than a regular driver's license. I think what happens is now the process isn't so quick. It used to be you could walk in, get a license, and they would hand it to you, print it out and everything on that same trip. I think as they move towards the real ID and they're closing down driver's license offices, and this is a way to give you a license until your official license is printed.
It's when you do the real
Time and
ID,
staff.
the real ID with the longer period, they do a temporary thing that's stapled to your old license, and it's there until the real ID license comes
Okay.
in.
Yeah, I had a
Thank you.
temporary.
I didn't know that.
Good afternoon, Ms. Griffin.
Good afternoon. My name is Jean Griffin. I live at 4530 West Broadway.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Yeah, I live at 4530 West Broadway, which is around the corner from the proposed property. The property has been renting out as an Airbnb for about 4 years. And I don't think that Mr. Ford has ever lived in that property. Okay, the property is wrong for the neighborhood because one reason it wasn't done the right way. And there are a lot of different.
Ms. Griffin,
Okay, there are a
could you
lot of.
move the microphone down, please?
Okay, there are a lot of different people renting the property. When they had the festival Louder Than Life, they had a lot of people renting that house for that week, and they were. It's a residential neighborhood, and I walk the neighborhood sometime. People were sitting on the porch drinking and smoking the funny smelling cigarettes, and you know what I'm talking about. I think they were marijuana, and I think it's unsafe. It's not. It's unsafe for the neighborhood, and it brings down your property value. And so that makes, we have a lot of elderly people living in the neighborhood. So that makes them afraid to walk the neighborhood because there are a lot of people that are renting the neighborhood, just going in and out and sitting on the porch. There's loud music going on. So it's unsafe for our neighborhood. And nobody in the neighborhood wants it. And a lot of neighbors are sick that would have been here today, but they have, they have different medical problems going on. And that's all I have to say.
And how close do you live to 716 South 45th?
Right around the corner.
Okay. Members, any questions for Ms. Griffin? Don't believe there are any at this time. Thank you. I have a speaker card for Ms. Bradley Logston. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You swear that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth?
I do swear that everything that I say today will be the truth.
Name and address, please.
My name is Sharice Bradley Logston. I live at 4520 West Broadway. And where the houses in question, our backyards kind of meet via the alleyway. So I do oppose the Airbnb rental. Michael Ford has not been a good steward or a citizen resident to the Westover subdivision. I thought it was my kids that were making a whole lot of noise one night. So I'm asking them to turn down the stereo system. Lo and behold, is the Airbnb rental. It was a lot of noise going on. They were smoking marijuana. We were kept up. I walk my dog. I see Oklahoma, Tennessee license plates. I've never seen Michael Ford Jr. At the residency. I've always seen characters that I've never seen in the neighborhood. I've lived in the neighborhood for over 20 years. So I do oppose this Airbnb rental. Really, I feel like he should be fined because everything that he has done nothing but brought down the community that we live in. And as Ms. Griffin has stated, it's a lot of neighbors that are scared to walk the neighborhood with seeing so many strange people that come in and out of our neighborhood on a weekly basis.
So you've not seen Mr. Ford at the property?
No, I've never seen him, and say that this is my backyard. His backyard is right here, so I have straight shot to see everything that's going on in his backyard, and I've never seen him. And then the way I walk my dog, I've never seen him on the front porch. I've never seen in front of the house or in the driveway area a Kentucky license plate. It's always something out of town. So he doesn't live there. I just feel like he's just a type of person that is not trustworthy. And if I had my druthers, I would never give him any type of conditional permit to do nothing with Airbnb, because he just doesn't tell the truth about anything. It seems like anything that he can do to get over and think that people are not going to be observant, he'll do it.
So you've not seen cars in the driveway with Kentucky tags, is what I'm hearing.
None.
Members, any questions?
I have one, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Ms. Logsdon, you said Michael Ford.
Whoever is
Well,
supposed to
they've
be.
got Matthew Ford, and then I heard you say Michael Jr. So are there the bunch of them?
That's the thing. It's almost like it's gypsies. You don't know who's who, what at the property.
Okay.
I've heard people say Michael Ford. I've heard people say Michael Ford Sr. So I don't know.
Okay.
And I know what Michael Ford Sr. looks like, but I've never seen his son.
Okay.
Now I can tell you that I've seen so many other people that's in the that goes in and out of residency, but it's different license plates. It's never nothing Kentucky.
Okay. Thank you. I just heard you say Michael.
Yes,
Ford
and I,
Sr.,
you
and
know,
we have
it's-
Matthew on the staff report.
see, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you just don't know.
Matthew Ford is the host of record.
The
I
host
believe-
of record. Okay.
I believe he is the son of Michael Ford, who is also listed as a co-host on
Okay.
Airbnb.
Okay. Well-
So it is a little bit
It's
confusing,
yeah.
but Matthew Ford's the one that needs to demonstrate residency at the property.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Question, staff,
I
please.
have a question. I'm sorry.
It's-
When did you first notice the kind of traffic there at the house? Do you remember?
Yes, I start noticing the traffic like in June.
June of last year? Okay.
June of last year, I really start paying attention. But even before the June situation of where my kids, I thought it was my kids making a noise. It was a lot of activity that hadn't been there at that particular house, I would say for the past year and a half that I've noticed, but it was always out of towner license plates. It was never nothing, you didn't never see anything as far as where I live at, if you look to see where I'm at, you'll see that it's a Kentucky license plate. Anytime that I did see something, it was always for repair, but it with Kentucky license plates, but it was never nothing as far as a resident vehicle stating that, okay, this is the person that lives here. Because pretty much in our community, everybody knows everybody and we look out for each other. But like I said, you don't know who is who. I know what the father looks like, but I don't know what the son looks like. And it's not being a nosy neighbor, but I am very mindful of what is going on in my neighborhood. And I just never see anything that makes me feel like he is a good steward of the community that we live in. And I'm just at the point of where, when is it going to be enough? How much more do we have to keep on dealing with as a resident to make people do right? If he does live there, that's fine. I'm not going to bother you, but for you just to keep on having this transit, that's what to me, it's like a transit of people coming in and out. It makes me scared for my well-being and for my kids' well-being. So I am just really opposed to it. And if he can be fined, I would greatly appreciate that, because something has to take a hold of people where they can't just do this to people just to make a quick dollar.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, question to staff.
Yes.
Maybe Joe would know. It appears that this young fellow is 19, it looks like, because he won't be 21 for 2 more years, according to his driver's license here. And he, in Old World Kentucky Hospitality, is a corporation. Is he an officer of that corporation, or how does he connect with the ownership of the house?
I mean, we wouldn't know all the different people associated with the LLC. It's my understanding that his father's the registered agent of the LLC, not Matthew Ford. As far as being a host in terms of his age, there's no age requirement in the ordinance. It's implied that you should be an adult and able to handle that. And I think that would be Airbnb's policy as well. I'd have to look it up, but I'm fairly certain that you would need to be 18 to host a property on their end. So, while that's not typical, it's not really something that we could, reject an application over.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
There's no indication of blackout dates on,
He states that there's no blackout date.
I mean, when we
well,
look at the listing, I mean, it's based on our experience, and keep in mind that Airbnb is just one way to rent a property. The most popular way that people choose, but there's other platforms, and some people are on several platforms in combination with word of mouth and different ways of renting the property. On Airbnb, we did not see any blackouts. It looked to be the only blackouts were dates where other people had bookings, but there could be, and we don't know because it just shows those dates as unavailable. So we're making an assumption.
okay. And the information that we've been provided by Jude was received this morning.
Yes. What we handed you this morning was submitted by Matthew Ford by email along with his request for a continuance. So that information we just received.
It was requested by Friday.
For the recording, he said it was received this morning. But the reason why we provided it to the board is we understand that typically you need this information 7 days in advance, but with a residency hearing, first off, it was rather short and easy to read. Second, with a residency hearing, it might not be his residency today, but it could be next week. So rather than have you act without that information and then him just submit it and us having to go through another residency hearing when he submitted it, we just felt it would be best to get it into the hands of the board
Okay.
right away.
All right.
I'm sorry, can I just say one other thing? We have, as like Cherie, Ms. Lawson said, we're not nosy neighbors, but I can look out my back window and I can see directly at the house in question. But now we have pictures of different license plates for multiple times that are down there and people coming in and out. So that, this is just not something that is hearsay. This is something that we have actual proof of.
I have a question. When did you first notice, this activity or people coming in and out?
Maybe about 3 or 4 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Those are the only 2 speaker cards that I have received, both in opposition. There's no one on the line to speak in support or representative for Mr. Ford. Okay.
I just have one question. In his request for a continuance, did he say he would be available for the next meeting? Was there any specific?
So I believe he did indicate, Jude spoke with him so he can answer this question, but I believe he said he would be available.
Yes, he indicated that a January 29th hearing date would work for him.
I would just note with the nature of residency hearings, if he had a pending application, we wouldn't mind a continuance. He has an active license. I think it's up to you to decide whether 2 weeks is reasonable. And if you want to hear from him and have questions answered under oath, then that would be the route to go. But I wouldn't do indefinite continuances, because the idea of this is if you find that it's not his residency, he's going to have his registration taken away and no longer be able to do short-term rentals because he has an active registration as it stands. So if you do continue it, that's okay if that's what you want to do, but I wouldn't keep continuing it. If he can't make the next meeting, at some point we can make a decision without his presence, because it's to his benefit to delay, frankly.
Or we could make a decision today based on the information available. Okay.
If you don't feel there's any questions he can answer based on the testimony and information that you've received, you can make a decision in his absence. And he was made aware of that possibility in the letter that we sent him.
Okay. Was he also made aware that he could have a representative here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
Thank you. All right. Members, are there? We've heard from Ms. Griffin and Ms. Logsdon, so I'll close the public hearing and we'll move into deliberations. Is there any discussion on what we've heard today? And the options would be to
I'm sorry.
continue.
Did not hear that there is no approved short-term rental. And I thought I heard that.
Owner occupied or,
So it is a little bit confusing. He initially got a citation sent, or the property owner received a citation because he's not the property owner of record for having an unlawful short-term rental. They did get the registration for a host occupied unit last year. So they have an active registration since last year. So the answer is currently, yes, they have a registration, but the requirement
Active registration.
is that the host have their primary residence there. Otherwise, he needs the conditional use permit.
Who was it that got the notice? Was it the property owner with the LLC, the father who is the registered agent, or did it send it to the boy that's saying it's his house?
It would have been the owner at the time of the citation, which I believe is the current LLC. So the citation goes to the property owner. It did not go to Matthew Ford.
Okay.
It went to whoever the registered agent of the LLC was, or the property owner at that time. I can look that up for you, but
Yeah.
effectively the property owner.
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, we're talking about 2 people. One says he owns the property and makes it appear that he is the only owner. And when in fact it's an LLC with someone else in it, seems like that person ought to be here.
Yeah, and you're not going to see this anymore with residency hearings. This is kind of a non-conforming situation. well, it's not kind of, it is a non-conforming situation. Under the new ordinance, an LLC cannot qualify for an owner-occupied short-term rental, and the owner has to be the host. So moving forward, you won't see this, but this is something that happened under the previous wording of the ordinance, and it's frankly one of the reasons why we made changes to it, is because it creates this confusion.
And the person who fought for it as a host is Matthew Ford, and it doesn't matter if he's host or co-host. Is that correct? Because in Airbnb, he is actually co-host, and Michael Ford is the host. That doesn't make a difference to us if it's co-host or host, right?
On Airbnb, it does not, no, but under the ordinance, the host of record is the person responsible. So we don't, staff does not recognize the other host. If we have to reach out to somebody, we're going to reach out to who's on the form identified as the host, and we only accept one host. Everybody else has to be an emergency contact.
All right. Thank you.
Members, any other discussion? And if you choose to proceed with a vote, I'd be ready to entertain a motion, well, either to continue this case or to make a decision on this case today.
I just have a query. Do the members of the board feel like they have enough information to make a motion? Or do we need to hear more?
I think I do, but I don't know, it may be because for me, even the owner should have been here today. Somebody should have been here knowing that this case was coming up.
Agree.
Nobody is here, and I've heard three names: a Michael Ford Sr., a Michael Ford Jr., and a Matthew Ford. Some Ford should have been here today, and they're all probably a part of All World Kentucky Hospitality. And I just don't believe they've given us the truth.
Agreed.
I believe we've heard enough to proceed with the decision. I can't be the motioner, but yeah.
No, I don't. I've forgotten what we need to do. But this is just outrageous.
So what basically under the standard of review and
Yeah, I
the
saw
required action is,
Right here.
right, so you would determine that the board, the host residency either satisfies section 1.2.2 because he does spend most of his time at the property, or the host residency does not meet section 1.2.2 because he has not shown that he spends most of his time. The documentation isn't really in question. It's more, where does he spend most of his time?
And based on the statement that we received today, he's not spending any time at the residence because he's in engineering college, wherever that is. So I have to go with the registration. Wait a minute. Host residence, it does not meet section 1.2.2. Am I looking at the right one? Yeah. Because the registration can be revoked. The host may reapply for the at a later date. That's what I want. That's the one I want to move on.
Yes, but I would clarify, because the staff report's probably parroting what I tried to correct earlier on the slides, is normally the host is the property owner and they could reapply. If today the board, if you're going to act, it's a decision whether or not you find it to be his primary residence as defined in the Land Development Code. That's what the board needs to do. If you find that it is not, we will revoke his registration. His options of moving forward don't need to be in the motion, but just so the board understands, because the property is an LLC, their options are proceed with the CUP if they don't want to change the ownership. If Mr. Ford would want to come back, I believe the LLC would need to transfer the property to his name so that he would qualify as an owner occupied.
But even if they transfer to him, he'd have a period of time, wouldn't he, before he could?
He would still have to demonstrate it's his primary residence as well. And there would,
Yes.
the 6-month residency requirement would also come into play.
Right.
As
Let's see, I think today he's only, 27% of the time? Am I doing that right? No, 47.
He said the house is booked 27% of the time. He didn't really say specifically.
How much he's there.
Right.
And so that's another reason that I think that he's not telling the truth. So
Ready to entertain a motion?
I got to figure out how to say it.
All right.
I got to figure out what all I'm going to say as well. In terms of, and I don't believe that the host is there, spends primary,
That it's not his primary residence
Right.
because he does not spend most.
much of his time there. And I'm going to say that I want to use the host residence that does not meet section 1.2.2 because based on the information that has been provided, the host of record does not spend primary time needed to say that he's a primary resident.
Not demonstrated.
Most of his time.
Does not,
If I were to make the motion that I think you're going to make, I would just, the board finds that it is not his primary residence as defined in the land development code and that he does not spend most of his time at the residence as required in the definition. And you can base that on the testimony and evidence and record that you reviewed.
I can't say remember all of that. It's a recording going to have all that. Let me think about it. I know I'm saying what you said, but I don't know if I'm going to do all that. But I do know he does not spend most of his time at this residence if he's away at engineering school. Somebody else can make the motion if they want to.
You repeat what you said, it might be helpful to,
I'm not suggesting this motion. No, I'm just trying to craft the motion that I believe Member Howard is trying to do. It's the finding that you need is that you find that it is not his primary residence as required in the land development code. That is what the board needs to do. Then you need to state why you don't find that it meets the definition. And that was the second part, that he doesn't spend most of his time there based on the evidence and testimony that you've reviewed.
I'll try it and we'll see where we go.
yes.
Madam Chair, regarding LIC STL 2300825 for the short-term rental host residency hearing at 716 South 45th Street, I move that the board determine the host residency does not meet section 1.2.2 because the host, as shown on record, is not, that the 45th Street address is not his primary residence. And the reason being is that based on the information that he provided, even as of today, for us to see, he does not spend most of his time at 716 South 45th Street. And I want to base this on the I don't know that I can use a staff analysis, but I want to base it on testimony that we heard today.
Yes.
And the evidence that has been provided to us, even by Matthew Ford.
And you could also use the standard of review contained in the staff report.
And I can also use the standard of review contained in the staff report.
And I will second that.
Sufficient. Attorney Ferguson? Yes. All right, it's been properly moved and seconded to decline.
Well, just to say that his host residence does not meet section 1.2.2.
The host residency does not meet section 1.2.2.
Is based on the motion.
Yes, as based on the motion. All right. We're ready for a vote.
Horton,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Leonhardt,
Yes.
Vozos, Bond.
Yes.
And just for the record, so we know what happens and the neighbors know what happens, we've had a few of these.
So they can hear you.
I will. Thank you. So what we'll do is, because he has a standing registration, he has an appeal period. We do not revoke within that appeal period to circuit court. So after the 30-day appeal period expires, we will, at staff, revoke the registration and he will no longer be able to do short-term rentals unless somehow he can requalify for the administrative approval, which we've noted some of the barriers to that,
Mhm.
or receives a conditional use permit. Yes, so the host will be notified of today's decision and his options on how to move forward.
Okay. Thank you.